Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to Plotting and Scheming, covering Season 52 3 vs 3 Grand Arena Championship Week 1. I am joined by my co-hosts, TJ and Sasha Isha. Dagger has to sit this one out. Couldn't make the schedules align for everybody. And yeah, so we've got notes from Dagger. We'll be able to include that. But it is a pleasure to be here with TJ and Sasha Isha. Guys, we're just minutes after the close of the season, the close of the first week, and I went 3-0, very unexpected because it was a nail-biter into the last half hour there versus Barator in the third match. How you guys doing? How'd you guys do?
I'm good, man. I will say this was one of the most exciting weeks I've had for a GAC. I'll go over the round one.
Please.
In my 1 point win against Goda, which was by far like into literally the wee hours of us doing basically a back and forth playing chess. It was, dude, I had an amazing week.
Fantastic. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. There's something to be said, and I think we're all going to end up realizing it and saying it our own way, but this was more fun this week than I thought it was going to be. How about you, Sasha?
Oh, totally agree. I mean, this was a lot of fun. I had three really tough, tightly contested matches. I went 3-0 this week, but each of those matches could have gone the other way with really great competitors in a tough bracket. And I just felt good about the state of the meta, or better about it than I had been. It was just fun to have some new puzzles, fun to have some new toys. So, yeah. Really good. Excited to dive into it with you guys in this episode.
Fantastic. All right. Well, let's go ahead and kick off segment one. What worked? TJ, why don't you kick us off? Tell us about the high notes. What worked for you where it needed to?
Monster. Sid is, when equipped properly, and me and Tass are in a heated debate on this, on one piece of it, but with a properly equipped Sid, and where Tass called the point out, and I think it's very true, high health stats on your DC. I kill DTMG. I think health steal's there, but I think having the high health is a good point. Yeah. Is a good equipment. But Tass called it out. I've been able to watch a lot of fights and the variation, and it's actually Brock who led me to say he got to do it. So we were trying this out. DTMG is just being punched out. I will say Goda set a weaker comp of DTMG, so he put death on it, and that was super easy. Tass, I fought Tass's, and we're not talking about chump change DTMG. We're talking fully relic, really good cron. And I got close, dude. I literally got down to my last life point, but luckily DTMG died off, and boom, back to full health, and I got to kill it.
Nice.
Sid is a lot of fun this week and killing a lot of things. What else worked? Dude, there's so many things that we're just trying out and working, right? JTR is getting to punch up, and that was punching up on Tass's team too. JTR Cheese is back, so that was another fun one that's working. Working also because of watching Zareth. I was able to get round one. It did work, and round two it didn't for my own mistake. Seer Malikos back on Ray feels pretty damn good. That was another strong round one that worked very well. And there's
you didn't run into any Cal comps with that, right? No OG Cal on the team? Or what?
No, it's not feeling like it. It feels like what you called out feels very true. And I'll let you talk. I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, by all means.
Everybody's on the cron, but everybody's on the cron right now, right? And my thought is, I've seen and fought both sides. Using Cal has worked, but I saw Zareth and got to see how he did it, so I was able to use Star Killer. It worked on the first one. On Tass's, it did not, so we'll talk about that one. Other things that worked. Everything else was, I was playing chess with everybody this week, so it was a lot of undermans and a lot of other tricky things I was having to do to get my points out. So it's like everything else was the same. Bane. Bane was being used for obviously various things, but for me, where I was not playing with it, now there's good reason why. was my counter for Beck, because Beck, people were setting various comps of Beck with these AoEs. I couldn't take chances with it, so it was just like, don't play with it. They're super strong. They're gonna kill you setups. So Bane was killing Beck for me right now, but obviously we know it's punching way up to like other GLs. I think those are the highlights for what really did good this week.
Fantastic. Good notes, though. Sasha, how about you? What worked for you this week? What was unexpected? What was clutch?
Yeah, and I'll try and cover some new ground, because without Dagger, we lose a little bit of our breadth or scope here. So stuff that isn't redundant with TJ here, like so. I really enjoyed having Malgus on offense this week, and I'll say it just in terms of like the versatility and optionality, and that like you could kind of go the full Sith Empire and bring your DR and BSF or possibly Malik in with him, and punch high. Like I think it's like a Riva and a DTMG, and then potentially finding the matchups for him that weren't just dependent on the sort of top tier Sith Empire companions, and being able to spare a separate, like for example, DRBSF Malik squad, and have Malgus, so break it apart and get an extra offensive squad, which in one of my matches I needed to do, and it was still able to take something out that otherwise was really likely to require a GL, and that was an opponent. Partek had set a DRBSF Savage squad, which is never easy to deal with, and particularly had some like pretty nasty Sithcron on it. And Malgus didn't need his A team to be able to still do pretty well. So that was a nice. It was just kind of fun to play with some Sith optionality there. Another thing that I used 3 times this week, like so in every match it had a high utility, was Maul, ISC, and Gar. And
nice.
You know, it means I'm not setting Maul with LV, but the capability of that team is really high. You know, with the Mandalore lead, there is a self cleanse for at each turn for one of those Empire Mandalorians, meaning they're going to be able to assist Maul when he starts ramping. So even if you're facing, for example, a Gas Krex 5s, and Krex opens up with that Irresistible Days, it's going to be cleansed, and you're going to have somebody hammering down that 501st and Krex squad. I just found that really effective. I used it against a Keller and Beck squad as well, and I went into that clenched, like really nervous, because I think that Keller and Beck squad, if I recall, was Beck, Gas, and Cam. And I'm like, okay, and it had, by the way, 40 stacks of Padawan lessons on it. It had 100% protection cron, plus the 100% offense. And I'm like, if these guys like are given like 10 seconds alone with me, they're going to tear my squad apart.
Yeah.
But and I think that was it, or maybe it wasn't Cam, maybe it was GK instead of Cam. But the point being, like, Maul is able to hammer through quickly enough that the opposing team doesn't stand long. So that was really nice. A couple other things that I'll call out. I got to use Tuskens on offense. Used it against a Gas Krex, a Wreck Krex 5 squad. And it's just, sort of taking advantage of the absence of an AoE on the opposing team, or meaningful AoE. I mean, Krex has one, but it's not the main source of damage. And I think they rectalated a Tusken Raider or Tusken Raider clone probably 3 or 4 times in that match, but you work them down and you ultimately take them out, and I think it was like a 55, 56. So that was just nice. I hadn't used Tuskens on offense. And with the absence of the Tusken Cron, it just felt like they probably aren't going on D for me, although they've got viability there. Like, spoiler, when it comes to it didn't work, I dropped on a Tusken squad this week. So yeah, I'll actually throw at least one more out. Then that is
please.
C. God bless C. And the reason I say that, and I know you guys have had the same experience, is like, I would have nightmares about Bo-Katan Mandalore if it wasn't for C, because I still am pretty anxious about taking C in some combination. It's going to be like a C Watt or just a C stat. Like, I'm going in with as many companions, even though they're just going to be fodder. I want C to go in with others, but C at least takes out Bo-Katan because I'm terrified of getting just hard stops on a BKM squad. So yeah, those are the ones that jump out. I have some others too, but like I thought those would be good ones. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah. Well, GG Stat Magna I encountered exactly once with the full. I guess what I would consider the proper setup. The 3 is kind of arguable whether or not you want the stacking offense and speed or you want the potency tenacity 3, but it's the target lock level 6 and the stat 9, and yeah, Slacker solo 58. It's with Stap there, it does more of what it was already doing, and Slacker is just unbothered. Finzori Rose, that's been catching people out this season, and I've gotten a couple holds with it myself. Afra BT1 000, mine is 56, so I was delighted to see that still works. I haven't fought one with Resistance Hero Finn, I think, so we'll have to see how that goes sometime this season. Kelleran Mace Ahsoka, I know a lot of people are going to be thinking about what to do with that. That was on a bottom front wall for me, and I didn't mess around with it. I just took in Seer 56. What else was interesting? Yeah, any Ray composition I encountered. That's set 13, set 14, Holdocron, Raycron, offense level 6, resistance 100% tenacity level 6, doesn't matter. Bane set was about 54 banners every time. And then against Trench Dooku Watt. So I learned my lesson from fighting TJ that having my Sidious on paper is just round the clock better than TJ's. It's more health, more speed, more potency, more offense, whatever. Like, it's everything that you would care about. But the difference is my Kron has nowhere near the health and the health steal on week 1. So I've since rectified the problem. But my Sidious versus DTMG we'll cover in a moment. But I had a success. So I didn't attempt that, like round 3. And I went in with Sidious against Trench Dooku Watt. It was a sweat, guys, because Tank Tech got on to Dooku. And yeah, Dooku was quick, and he just kept being able to, heal himself, and he stabilized, and it was like 2 solid minutes of me just sweating, watching the 2 of them trade blows. And in the end, I'm sitting there thinking, he's faster. He's so much faster than this guy. Why are we not actually getting one chance to loop him? And then it finally happened where we were able to get him up to 5 stacks. He took a turn, fell over. So that was a bit interesting. Let me see if there was anything else.
Yeah, people need
questions.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Go
ahead, TJ.
Do yours. No, do yours. Go ahead, because then I'll come up with my point about it.
Yeah, I was going to ask 2 things. One, whether you think health steal is really necessary on a Sidious datacron, because the level 9 as a stat, because the level 9 gives him 200% health steal, right? And I actually was finding I got Sidious against a Trench Dooku Watt team as well, and the learning I had out of it was. It was my offense that I wanted to make sure I had. Like, I was a little anxious about timing out because Tank Tech, in my case, Tank Tech was on Trench. And what I found is I had to move to auto basic. That just did more damage that way. But the health steal wasn't as much of a concern for me. As long as there was sort of like a sufficient health base, it was having like offense enough so that I could just basic down and sort of outpace their regen. So that was one thing. Like you're a believer in health steal then versus offense.
I am a believer of health. Like TJ's has like 55%, and I rolled, so I had about the same. And I think I also have something week like
1, just to clear that up. I added more, so I had less than that. So to your point. I would think you need a minimum of 40% to really be effective, depending on R8, R9. where you're going to be at, because that does put in. But I think a minimum of about 35 to 40. Don't go any lower than that for what you're trying to achieve and where I'm punching up at. So I'll give my thoughts on it after everything I've watched. But go ahead. I know you had the other questions for your Sasha.
No, good. Actually, you go ahead, TJ. Go ahead.
So the way you have to play your this Sid, right? This Sid is equitable to a good Wampa. It has its matchups where it's at, but I've watched where the fails can hit you. Not talking about yours, Tass. I think you called it out like expertly, right? Of what was the real key pieces. But other people are trying to do these things and not thinking about the goal of the character and what the cron is doing. The goal of trying to get to that 5 stack so somebody dies, and then it's just a barrel effect, right? So people are trying to do this with teams that are bringing tenacity up or bringing things where you can't get the dots to do the job. So it's like, it's not just a, let's just take it in and go. But if you're taking against, like you see Star Killers, right? Just barrels over. You're seeing Afras barreling over. It's killing up into things that are doing else. Like I got the DTMG, but mine was super close. And clutched out because of the health that I had on. And again, like I said, Tass and I have talked extensively, and I still want to do more testing on the level 6. But I've even made more adjustments, and I put more health on it because I really feel like that is what Tass said is a really good key piece. But you need to put them to the right places, and you do need to base it on how stat heavy you are when you walk into that fight, because you have to be prepared that it's going to get super close, and or as Tass saw, it could just easily lose in one shot, and you have to be prepared for that.
And a little health steal is nice.
Right.
Like I have something like 34% something on it. Like it's not a huge amount. I don't know. I just felt like there were parts where I got uncomfortably low on health in the fight. To your point though, Sasha, adding more offense onto the mods is probably more important than people think for the matchups where, like, consider that, like, the type of matchup where you're fighting an effect that's like a passive dispel like tank tech is going to be fairly rare. But, that would be actually pretty difficult. I was thinking about what in the nightmare scenario of, like, I don't know, Trench Magna Watt. And what happens if tank tech gets onto Magna, something like that, like a tank who you're really not going to just basic him and have him fall over, I don't think, kind of a thing. It's like, I wonder if you could end up getting jammed up with Sidious on something like that. I don't know if you guys had any thought on that, but it's kind of...
I'll give you an example of something that'd be very tempting to take Sidious on, and if you don't have sufficient offense, I think you time out. And that would be, a lot of people are using Malicos on offense, maybe with Crew, maybe someplace else. Maybe with Slacker or something like that. You know, there's a lot of different potential homes. And so you'll occasionally see like a Seer, Crew, Fulcrum, right? And that may feel like it is safe as a target for Sidious, but the reality is you're never going to get 5 dots on Fulcrum. You know, because she's immune to dot, so they keep dropping off. And she regens and creates a protection up for herself with her basic. And so if you can't really hammer hard, you're going to time out against a Fulcrum with Sidious.
I watched the fight.
Go ahead.
So I just
want
to
call
this out.
Okay.
I've watched it. This is why this week was so exciting. I have spent more time than I care to admit watching everybody's fights and seeing things in other people because there was so much to learn. This set now is a monster for what the theory crafting and way to put things together and what it does. A lot of new teams, a lot of new comps, and a lot of new ways to place your defense and stuff to kill came out of this week. A lot. So I don't want to steal anybody's thunder from the content creators, but I can't stress it enough. You guys need to go check them out. There's a lot that was going in. So your Seer fight, I've watched it work. And I watched it not, and I watched why it didn't. I'm not going to steal it, and I'm not going to give it away, but I watched it as a 50-50, as well. I'll give this in. When it worked, it got to the point where I felt it might have been, with the correct setup, it would be okay, but also got sort of lucky in that we got the timing to just right, and a character died off. And once that started, fight was done. But I also watched it cleanse off. And to your point of exactly what you just said, Sasha, couldn't get it. Boop. There went Sid. So it's like these punch-ups of where you're doing it, you need to play how and when you're going to use Sid smartly. Don't just think it just blindly go in with anything. That is not the case with this.
Yeah. I mean, so I think our overall impression is it's like you need enough health to qualify for the fight. Because if you take so much damage, and God forbid you're fighting anybody that can go under stealth and hit you, and you don't get to counterattack, you have to be able to take some hits that you're not going to be able to answer. And if you're not, you're gonna be in some trouble. And then, you know, a little health steal feels like it's good, but I think the more I think about it, maybe having offense is better because you already have health steal baked in, per Sasha's comment. So I'd say offense isn't a bad secondary, but for me, I would not go, like, I know TJ, you said 40% is probably the floor. I don't know, man. I think I'd shoot for 50. I think, like, I mean, you can try it, and I'm sure people will have success, like, outside of the top 50, top 100, but I'm just thinking about the people with the really cracked out stuff.
Why do you think I went up to 55? But the reason I say that is this week, I walked in with 40 or 40 or 5 or something like that. And then talking to you and watching the fights, I rolled it again. I happen to have a really good health steal, I think level 6, wherever it's at. Like, we looked at it, right, Tass?
Yeah.
One of my rolls, I got super lucky in one of my rolls just to be easy.
Yeah, you had
I got basically a 50% health steal on just one, like, item, right? Like, my level 6 is 50% health steal. Rest is health. So I'm not discounting what Tass is saying, but in playing it enough and seeing everything, one, I believe everything has tiered out depending on what you get. So Star Killers and Afros are going to be a lot easier. If you're really trying to punch up to these teams where you're taking a GL if you're not going to win, or it's going to clutch out like DTMG or some of these other ones, you need to have this decked out. You need the relics, you need the good modding, and you need the good stats on your DC. Otherwise, take it to a lower tier, e.g., which is funny enough, Afra, Star Killer, these others, they're going to die off pretty fast because they can't cleanse. If you're trying to fight the fight, then you really need the stuff.
Very fair. Very fair. Yeah, it really makes me go back and forth on whether or not to actually Relic 9 Sidious. Because you know as soon as the Kron's gone, you're just going to be...
I wouldn't. I think R8 is a great hold. Because Sidious still has fight for, like, us in the, in the gauntlet. R8's a great hold, in my opinion, for an attacker, right? There's some damage there. There's utilization in TW. There's an Omicron. So in the gauntlet, I think you're fine. I think you should roll that DC. If you're really going to play with us at the top and sweat it out, you need to roll your DC correctly. And you need good mods on your Sid for now. They could probably go elsewhere, but I don't see why you need to R9. If you're super whaling and Kraken, you probably already got an R9, and it's not there. But I'm not going to R9 mine, but I will probably keep tweaking my Sid cron for as long as Sid is here, because it is so much fun.
Yeah, I might be trying to get more demanding of the mods too. Sorry, what was that, Sasha?
No, it's an R9 that I will want or wish I had for the next 3 months plus.
Yeah.
But it's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I kind of, I'm kind of in the same spot. All right, well, we do have great notes here from Dagger here. So about what worked for him, Sidious versus DTMG and Seer. I would have to assume that's like Malicos crew, Malicos Cal something, Malicos Fulcrum. Who knows? Afra.
Yeah, I've seen a Malicos Fulcrum, by the way. So I have seen it die. I've also seen it fail. So
because it sounds like he would have to survive a really brutal amount of damage.
The fight. So weird enough, the fight. Just to call it out again, I'm not. Go watch the creators. It ended up being a match back and forth between Sid and ATF. It was not Malicos. It was not Seer. The ATF, and then they lapped the ATF to get the dots for her to die.
Okay.
But was the fight long? Yes.
That's tricky, yeah, because she's constantly dispelling. See, that's another one of those matchups. The passive dispelling, man. I'm telling you, man.
Yep.
There's gonna be that's gonna be kind of. I was talking about it, I think, with each of you at different points, but in a whole bunch of other places as well. He is, you know, how we've said forever now that Wampa's the floor for, you know, you want to set a defense that's better than what Wampa can take on.
Yeah.
And now Sidious is now raising that floor up, you know? So everybody's going to be really thinking about what you can actually do about that. Dispel is king versus him. And then otherwise you'd have to have, you know, Hellsteel or offense of your own to overwhelm him. In addition to that Dispel, it's kind of fun to think about. All right, other notes here from Dagger. Afra clutched out a win versus Saw. I don't recommend it as it was awful and required a double revive with Afra standing versus Saw, Baze, and Chirrut. So all three of them were alive at different points. I fought a Levi with ITB B28 Fury and cleaned it with the standard Chimera comp, but Mark 6 did get to one-hit KO somebody, so it wasn't nothing. Just no damage in the initial lineup, so you were under no real pressure. So getting to Chimera ult was easy. Seer worked versus Ray, Starkiller versus Ray. Both were smooth, but I've got to take stock of the level 3 and level 6 combo on Ray. What didn't work? I think that's where we'll turn to next. So, TJ, let's hear about it. What didn't work? And I'm just gonna kick back. I'm gonna put my feet up a little bit here.
Yeah, this guy. Fuck this guy. And his hat's ugly too. It's gross. It smells funny.
Oh.
All right. So here's what didn't work. So we tried it, and again, I had to go through a whole bunch of modding Rex for this, right? Because this really tried things. So first round against Goda, everything was working just fine. What I decided to try was the Gar ISC. Incorrect modding. So we already know where that goes. What I thought about, what I talked out, because there was no point where I feel like I could try it. I tried Piet as the third on there. It didn't change the fight. Because of the potency, and again, it was just, I didn't have it there. I had stock stuff, but I wanted to try to see how it would be with this gas because of gas being a monster right now, with Jeddah being back in full force. Nope. So part of my remodding was Gar IC has now been corrected for this week, hopefully to a good point. If not, I have plans. That was one of my many changes that are happening this week. Other things that didn't work. We're going to go to Tass's fight. Tass's was a lot of shit that didn't work, but it was actually really good because, man, did I learn a whole bunch from Tass's fights. Ray. So Seer, Malicos, and Starkiller, what I thought walked in, I took... So normally what happens in the fight is Seer pretty much gets targeted, right? So something like that, like they're targeting the weakest character. Did not happen this way with Tass's, and Tass had really good modding setup, of course, this Tass, but also the Kron, which made me go reroll my Kron. He had about 30% offense tacked in to his team on the Kron itself with already high offensive, which I know Tass has talked about several times. And man, they just beat the hell out of Starkiller. And what happened was, in 2 turns in a row, my Seer, she used the revive mechanic from Malicos, and then some big hit. I don't remember which it was. It was either Ben or it was Ray, but boom, both Starkiller and Seer dead, and then Malicos was just left alive. Like, had me my jaw dropped at how fast and how much damage got hit, where it, like, just blew me out.
So that means they'd each been saved once by that point in the fight.
But they were just beating on Starkiller. So it was one of those things where it was the perfect storm of where they were going. They were leaving Malicos alone and just beating the shit out of Starkiller all fight. Armor shreds. And then so they popped Seer. What I had is I took like 80% deflection, just thinking of Ben and the amount of times he's going to go. It didn't matter. And I was, because I took the light side protection up when I think I really should with 2 dark side characters, should have taken Doubt. But again, lessons learned. It's okay. It was a good fight. The other one that got me, and I'd seen it and I wanted to try it, GG Stat. Taz had the really good Kron with the level 6 with the target lock. I even recorded the fight and I showed Task like what happened. So I saw
super fun.
It was crazy, man, how fast, and it's really good to see. And if anybody wants,
actually, yeah, if you don't mind, I can pull it up. Off
no, show it because it's a 45-second fight, and while I'm talking, you'll see how fast it's going. I don't mind people see it because it was good learning.
Did you DM that to me, or is that in Scheme Team?
No, I think I DM'd it to you, so check there. But I think it's worth watching, and anybody who gets this video, you're gonna get a kick out of it.
Okay.
So what happens is because the target lock starts and they push into the target lock, I took AdRat, right? I'm thinking, all right, it's gonna be fast enough. I didn't get like one turn. My team got obliterated so fast I couldn't keep up, and it got loaded. Here's what makes this funny: is round 2, I was like, I need to take something. I need to get some points back because of the drop. So I took a solo LV on a loaded team. Don't do that. I learned very quickly on. It was so gross at how bad it was that my LV, he looked like a sad boy. Getting bullied in the schoolyard is what it felt comparable to. It was just like, it just obliterated me. So I had to overkill it. So I think I took gas or something like that. But it was like, yeah.
Let me show this here, your fight on screen. I don't know if you're looking in Discord. I also have the OBS up there so you can see. But I don't know if you want to comment while it's going. I'm about to play it.
You'll see, because I was like, I was looking at all the steps to see.
I don't know if you're seeing this, Sasha.
Yep. Watch how fast this goes, Sasha.
Yeah.
Don't blink. Don't blink. So here we go. So it starts. They hit into the target lock, so they're gonna move fast, right? Watch, just watch. It's gonna, and I'm like, oh shit. I probably need. Oh wait, that's gone.
Leave my Fishman alone.
Yeah, it looks like I want to forfeit. It didn't work. That was my fight.
Yeah.
So I was sad. I was a sad boy. So yeah. What else didn't work? There's so much good stuff learned. So what I decided to try, and it didn't work. And whereas this again is gonna go long. My thought was, and again, not correct level 6, but I wanted to try GG Stat. Last season, I talked about it, and what I wanted to check out was that against Finzori. Now, again, incorrect level 6, but Stat with GG, and you get the bonus. And I'm like, all right, this is going to be fast. So I took it against Tass's Finzori with the Rose, and this will be important why I say this. Without that level 6 and that turn meter, I got lapped. The reason I got lapped, it's Rose. So you remember what she's doing is she's getting rid of the stuff. I couldn't keep up with the amount of cleanses going on. So, and again, and I wish I would have recorded it because this was such a good learning experience for this round with Task. Because like I'm gonna lose. I don't mind losing the Task. So let's see what we can learn. They lapped me so hard without that target lock being reapplied and hitting into it. I couldn't keep up, and they just lapped me and I was dead. They went at. They hard targeted on Stap. So Stap, not Stop Task. Stap.
Thank you.
Stap.
Thank you.
And fuck off.
But I didn't make the rules for this language, by the way.
You did. English hard language. All right. I couldn't do it, so I loaded it bad. But it was good learning to note that I think with the level 6 target lock, I really feel like it's there because you can hit the target locks and stay ahead. Without that and Rose on the team, it's like. One, I don't think Sid's taking it because the cleanses are going to be there and you're getting tenacity up and all those things you're doing. I think it's got to hold. And then the TM game. With that level 6 right now, with this, the resistance are really hard to play around. And you have to be smart on what you're going to take in because of how it goes. And like I talked about one thing with Task where Holdo on Finn and Zori, I had to fight that with, and I took Afra. I almost lost the fight because they start with Foresight, so you have to play around the Foresight start, and you have to try to kill everybody. And man, they were hitting hard.
I believe
so.
That.
These resistance, man, in this setup is just amazing. So that was one that didn't work. So let me go. Like I said, this was a good learning. The other one I tried, and I still think it's there, and I'm gonna call it again for Task. Gungans. And I have a point because I watched Alna do it, which is, again, go watch content creators. I wanted to try Gungans on Trench because we had watched it, we talked about it, to see what it's going to do with sets, right? They can't hide from it. They can't stop. I don't care. It did work for Arnold, but there was no Watt, so I had to leave that. But it didn't work for me, so I wanted to see where it was at with just a 2-man, but I think it's there with a 3. So I think Sep's days might be numbered, which is another thing we'll talk about. I think that's all the good ones, Tass. But yeah, this and I didn't fail anything with my last round. But yeah, such a good week.
All right, well, good job in the last round there. Yeah, good fails though. Those were good lessons, and I've got my own I'll cover here in a minute. But Sasha, let's hear about it. What let you down? What did you think was going to work, and then it promptly did not work?
Yeah, so I had a pretty good offensive week. The first 2 matches, I did not have any drops. The last match, I dropped 2 ground attacks, and there were learnings out of them, I would say. But one was actually each of them were counters that I'd used multiple times successfully. So I went in with like a high degree of confidence and was surprised that they failed. So the first one against Tuscans, and like as I mentioned earlier in the show, like, you know, hey, the Tuscans still have like some sort of like towards the end of like the line, like maybe like 14th, 15th strongest team you could set out there in Kyber 1 as a defense, and a little bit of viability if you don't have the right matchup. But I've been using BAM IG-11 Queel with the BAM Cron, the level 3 that gives you 2% damage on percent health, the level 9 for BAM, the increased offense on level 6 for them. And I'm like, all right, this is really set. And I used it, I don't know, gosh, a half dozen times now against Tuscans, even with the Tuscan Cron. And so I felt really confident. Went in my last match, and it was a Tuscan Cron that was it was a level 9 from set 14 with a good amount of offense on it. And it also had, I think, the 15% offense when an ally dies. And I was able to get BAM's birds off and killed Warrior and the original Raider. But the Clone Raider and Chieftain took out my BAM. And at that point, it was like on auto for another like 4 minutes. And I was not, I think I killed that Clone Raider once, but wasn't able to get the Chieftain out. So that was disappointing, but it didn't work. It was just actually learning out of that was that Tuscans, I think if they're really, you want them well modded, obviously, and I think well modded in this case is hitting really hard. You want them, certainly Raider, but also Warrior hitting hard on offense, and really like aggressive offensive Cron. I'm a big believer in that, and it's done me. The other one, so like it was high offense Cron. It wasn't doubt, it wasn't anything like that. It was just purely, it was decently high offense. Then the other one that failed me was actually a JMK versus Ray. There are cool Ray puzzles being created with all these resistance options, right? Yeah. And this was a Ray, Ben, and Holdo with what I think most people would want on those types of crons. The level 6, take everybody under 100% before you can take anybody out. And then the Holdo 9, which is formidable. And so I had a good match on that. I suspect my tactics were flawed. They worked in I think each of my previous 2 matches, but they didn't work here. And to be specific, what I tried was so I brought in JMK in my previous 2 matches. Been JMK, Cat, and Mace. This time it was with GK because I had set Mace on D, just trying out some different defenses. But I would reset Cat's cooldowns, wait until Holdo goes. I know I can't kill her, but once she goes and instant defeat immunity is up, I would do a Cat jump on her to take her down to 1% health, and then have JMK put heal immunity on her, and then take her out, and then it's the 3-on-2, and I sort of get them down. Whether I can't even recall if I had the prevent revives or the 100% datacron, but I felt very good about all of that. And I go through it, but the issue that I had, again, it was a really well modded, really well croned resistance team, Ray team, and it had a good amount of offense, and they focused down my Cat really quickly, took her out once, and she got sort of the savior thing once, and then Ben finished her before I was able to take Holder out. And so I was left in a spot where and this is another lesson, I guess the one little thing I did right, that was the silver lining, is I was sitting there with, at that point, just my JMK, and I'm clearly going to lose, and I can't kill anybody. But what I just kept doing was have JMK just continue to ramp, sort of calling himself to assist, going after Holdo, and then letting it time out at a point when Holdo was under 100% health, Ray was under 100% health, and I could bring something else in, and I don't have to get them under again, and it allowed me to clean it up. But yeah, that was rough. That was definitely rough. A lot of the other learnings I had in terms of what didn't work this week, like I just want to, without Dagger here, I'll say it like, give props to your local content creators. Like, this was a fantastic week for SWGA, like, GAC content. Right? Like, it's new stuff, so it's really fascinating. There's a lot of interesting matchups because so much shaking up with datacrons and some new characters, a lot of other stuff. And then we had these incredible matchups like, this past Friday, Tassinix and TJ matching up. We had Zareth and Fatal. It was a great these were just phenomenal, like, really, really good content. So, even though I couldn't catch everything real time, like, most stuff, like, I just tried to make sure, like, I got, the stream after the fact, like, watching Calvin, watching Sanchita, watching whoever I can, and listening to Kin stuff as well. There's just a lot of good stuff out there. So while I only failed twice myself, it's really because I had the benefit of, like, learning from a lot of other people who were, the pioneers out there doing it first, who ended up with the arrows in their back.
Very fair. For my own part, I mean, I already kind of spoiled it there about the Sidious letting me down. Kellerin, Ahsoka, and Mace. So I was thinking that I was going to treat it proper here against TJ, and I went in with Treya, Nihilus, and Savage with the datacron. Emphasis on some crit avoidance. We did what we could trying to plan our way going into it. And it looked like it was going okay at first. But then they started to really build up stacks of Padawan lessons. And the damage became much more severe. And then suddenly Trey got knocked out. And then it was a weak, Savage and Nihilus sitting there. And then Savage was gone. And then it was just Nihilus. And then Taunt dropped just a moment off of Mace. And I was able to pop Kel before they closed him out too. Cleaned that up with Veer's Dark Piet. But that was one of the few risks I took in the fight versus TJ, and I thought, I was like, man, I feel like this has a decent chance. Like, they've got a lot of assist stuff going on, especially with Ahsoka there. All the attacks out of turn, I thought I was just going to gobble them up, and it was not like that. So yeah, the DTMG, using the Sidious there, you just need more health in the Cron. It's clearly not so dependent on, as dependent on the mods as it is on the Cron. Other fails here. So yeah, just today against Barator, Gas Arc Echo. Man, I finally got caught. Used Gar ISC, and they finally caught me with once Gas stood up after I had unceremoniously murdered his friends. He stuck the 1 days onto Gar, and just that 1 days was enough to shut down the train, and they weren't able to close him out. So I just cleaned that up with Wampa. And then, yeah, I share your pain, Sasha, against a set of Tuskens. So I took the risk of having, like, a Maul, Bam, Bo team on defense alongside, like, a separate Lord Vader team. It was, like, Lord Vader, Sortie, IPD with IPD Crum. And so I didn't have the Bam Queel IG-11. That worked well for me here in the first round versus TJ. So I decided to do Boss, Dad Bob Boba, and Mando. And this is with the Mando Cron. This is with prod up on level 3, right? So, yeah, they just bopped out Mando twice in a row. It was pretty ridiculous. We were just a couple turns away from getting contract, but it didn't end up working out. Had to withdraw. Got absolutely no one. It was really disappointing. He was running a Dowcrom, by the way. This isn't even talking about your scenario where you're tricking him out for offense. So it was just a gnarly situation. Went in with Leia, Drogon, and R2 to make sure that I would have the ability to land a large enough simultaneous blow to knock everybody out later in the fight. And that's how it worked for 35 banners. Whoop-de-doo. Now, as far as Dagger goes, for what didn't work for him, Night Sisters versus Finzori. The tenacity up level 3 just, with that on their team, he just couldn't get anything going. Malgus versus Riva. Once again, sometimes GI decides that BSF and or DR just don't need to be there. So it sounds like the AoE is hitting harder than anticipated. Interesting. All right. Okay, well, let's move into segment 3 here. Standout defenses. TJ, let's hear from you. Who held the line?
For me, I wish we had it still. The big ones that did it for me this week, for round 1 against Goda, which again, I'm still going to call it one of the most epic matches I've ever had. 1-point win at the very end. Literally chess match. So it was D Team G held and Aiden. Those were my 2 standouts. Got 1 hold each. I'll have to call that a win. Keller and Beck against you was a really strong. It's just because it's just a monster. Beck is such a monster right now. It's like you don't know where to place him on the team. So it's like it needs something, but it doesn't need much. And if as long as it's properly built, it's just there goes your team.
Do you think it makes much of a difference whether or not it's Ahsoka or Gas in there?
No, I like the idea of the Gas. I think my Ahsoka was cool with the idea. And again, let me preface this. I stole the idea from Tass. I didn't have a lot of time and I didn't feel very good. Tass's idea was to put this team. I wanted to see what it was doing live, so that's why I put it in there this way. I think an AoE is definitely needed on the team somewhere. That's why I think Gas is such a great tool on the Beck team. But just like I think JKA there is a great tool, as long as you're putting AoEs on this team with that Beck level 9, you are in a beautiful place.
Interesting. Okay.
My problem is, we've talked about it, and I'll tell you one where I told these guys too. There's JTR is back with the cheese. This level 6 is just so good for the resistance, and that if you put the right team who can stealth out, which is in my history if you want to go check it out, but you put that 3rd character who can't get hit, you can cheese out teams right now. So it's still back for what JTR can do and resistance in general. Other standout will be against Shooting Star, which was another efficient player, but caught out. Luckily enough for Tass, he'll say it's Finn, Zori, and Rose.
Hey,
my only hold.
My man.
My only hold. I put it back in there thinking but it was a good level. It was a good cron. It was the level 6 was correct, but yeah, that my only hold. And I won, I think, by 40 or something banners. I had a win, which would be, guess what? The drop that was done on the Finn. So, yeah, beautiful. These characters right now with these crons are definitely doing their work as far as what they're catching.
All right, Sasha, how about you? Your defensive standouts.
You know, it's interesting. Having chatted with a couple of my opponents, it was just it was a very fun week. You know, I had Brilliant Zid, I had Renee and Pardek, and then so I caught up with 2 of the 3 of them, and like I actually think that my standout was probably at least in one of those 2 matches, and possibly the other. It was a squad that didn't get a hold. You know, it's a lot of it is about what you set in the bottom front and what it happens to draw out. And in this case, it's just like TJ was saying, it was Keller and Beck, and it was setting Beck out there with. And I mixed up my combo because I was just kind of curious over the week to see how various iterations would perform. And in at least one of them, it drew a JMK counter, because I think I put like Gas and KM, or I put Gas and Mace, or something that was like not screwing around. And it's with a good KB datacron that had, I think, 60% protection and 20% offense. Like, so in 100% on level 6. So it was going to hit like a truck. And understandably, people are kind of fishing around for what's the right counter. But by drawing JMK up front, it kept the opponent from being able to take out Jabba cleanly in the back. And so while Jabba may seem like the standout, it's actually, I think, Keller and Beck. So that was the difference maker on it. There were a few other squads that had nice, I think, important holds for me. I had a Finn Zori Resistance Hero Finn squad that was effective. I'll have to see the history, but if I had to guess, that they stopped something that might have been Night Sisters and then probably drew out an EP Starkiller or some other counter that was going to be needed elsewhere and caused, sort of a ripple effect of heartache for an opponent. And then I got to say, because I think this is like the 8th time in the last 9 weeks that I've said it, God bless Trench. Like, Trench again got, I think, maybe it was only one hold this week, but it was in a week where it was pretty darn important for there to be a hold. So Trench did well. I am not completely sold that the Trench datacron, even with its optimal rolling of levels 3, 6, and 9 and solid stats, is better than Doubt. I'm not totally sure. I think in some cases Doubt may even be better for Trench. But I set the Trench datacron, and I'll be curious to dig through some of the .gg history as to what works and what doesn't. So those were the ones that stood out. And then I just want to say, we'll come back to it a little bit more, I think, but it was just a lot of fun having a datacron set that is touching on some really broad factions like Jedi and Resistance and Sith, because it enables combinations that are way less like simplistic cookie cutter. Everybody's doing the same thing. Like TJ's talking about, like, oh, hey, there's these cool things you can do with Resistance. And I feel like I barely touched on it. In each match this week, I set on my bottom front wall a squad that would always been afterthoughts. It was JTR, BB-8, and Holdo. So I did not set Rey with Holdo. And I did that because I'm just like, that Holdo datacron is beastly. If it's not handled correctly and thoughtfully, you can get stuck behind it. And there's foresight and turn meter flying like crazy with that JTR BB-8 Holdo combo. So maybe I will get, like I talk about Keller and Beck, maybe I'll get an opponent who's really sort of grasping for the right counter that overspends on it. I have smart opponents. I doubt they did. They both done it each time. But I just love that this datacron set had that. So, like, in terms of defenses, I think there's a lot of, like, raw material that's, like, still to really be refined into great options out there. And I'm excited to go through the .gg history when it's available. So how about you, Taff? What about the defenses? What stood out?
Yeah, so I mean, TJ and I have already, from different sides, already covered the ones that held with in his match. My GG Stat Magna, Finn Zori Rose, and then Rey Swolo Holdo. So those were the key holds. And after that, he was just experimenting, so it doesn't really matter what those outcomes were. As far as key holds for this one round, let's see. I think it was 2 places. Yeah, all right. So Rex Crex 5's got me a hold. And that's the thing, is it's like I'm loath. I guess I should be less loath to set Gas Arc Echo if you have, if I'm having a Jedi 100% offense defense level 6 high offense, I would say, right? Really high offense. That would be the best thing I could do for myself, is putting the highest offense Jedicron on Gas Arc Echo and maybe setting that down if I wanted to stretch my value and have, a distinct team, and then I'll just put Ahsoka in with Kelleran and Mace, something like that. But Rex Crex 5s is still a problem, and it's still not to be underestimated, so fair enough. And then DRBSF Savage. I know you said earlier, Sasha, you take it seriously, as well you should. It's rare that I've been setting it here in 3s lately, so I'm glad either he didn't expect it or he didn't have the right thing for it, but he ended up withdrawing and then cleaning it up for 34 on the second go. So we used something very proper. Maybe he was trying to have an experiment. I don't know. But not a whole lot, as you would expect, held this week. That's about it for me. As far as Dagger goes, Beck, Gas, and Snips was a team that held for him once. Sear, Fulcrum, and Malicos, although it felt really bad pulling this off defense after round 1 because he wanted to have it, for Ray and stuff like that. And then moving Riva to the back wall paid dividends, right? So if you're, everybody knows about using Bane versus Riva and something of the kind. So how successful are you, at drawing out Bane and whatever it is that you're wanting to actually potentially jam your opponent up on that back wall? That's about all the opportunity you have, is a bit of gamesmanship on that bottom front. Otherwise, it's so narrow. Like today's match that I just barely won versus Barator was by 3 banners. 3 banners, man. That's one of the closest ones I had in a while. So it's razor thin out here. All right, guys. Lessons learned, and we'll transition right into the final thoughts after, because I know, TJ, you had to get going sooner than later, so we'll try and wrap this up nicely. Go ahead, man. You go first then, TJ, about what were your lessons learned from this week? Other than the ones you already covered, like just in summary and brief.
Oh, there's so many, dude. This week, I've got 7 to 10 new mod changes that are being done. Even more DC changes that are being done. Level 3s and 6s are getting crazy rerolls. Way more money than I care to admit on what had to be done, but it needed to be done to be competitive right now. They need these changes. Everything is very effective in what it's doing, and it's very meticulous what you have to be looking at. So there's a lot going on with this set, which is great, right? It's making the game fun. It's bringing new challenges.
It's true.
Making sure that your stuff is in line. It's just going to be money. Those are my biggest things, right? Like I look like the dude from It's Always Sunny. And I've got points out to here and points out to there, and I'm smoking like 16 cigarettes at the same time, trying to talk about the conspiracies that are going on, because it's that crazy right now. So lots of changes, lots of moves, and again, so many things to watch and so many people doing so many new things to try to get it out there. And what can it do? So I am excited to see what GG data looks like after week 1, because I don't think we scratched the surface of what it's going to be like. So I think it's going to take the 2 weeks just to be able to even get something relevant.
I agree. I think, everybody wanted to do some testing, but particularly up in our neck of the woods, you're also not trying to lose either. So there were limits to how far you could really push it. Very fair. Sasha, how about you? Lessons learned, takeaways. What do you got going into week 2?
I'm excited about the state of the game. I guess if I was going to be goofy, I could say Misa a little worried that the Gungans are going to come onto the board now, and I suspect they are a really effective offensive squad. So I think it's probably going to shift stuff back once, like in the next week or two, where for the whale accounts, you're going to start seeing having those as options. But I agree with TJ, and I kind of like, this is similar to the excitement I was sharing a few moments ago of it's just like this really rich vein of options that we have across these different factions, like the Jedi, whether it's the Qui-Gon Jinn, put Kit Fisto under there, put some other stuff, like trying Kelleran Beck with the variety of options we've got, and then the Resistance ones. I would say, I just would encourage people to try stuff that you haven't seen, try stuff that maybe isn't showing up in histories, because we have enough options that I think we might be able to delay the sort of natural order and progression of things we've got, which is that week 1, everything seems new. By Tuesday or Wednesday of week 2, everybody's sort of mined through the history, and the 3 to 5 new things that were there, people discover hard counters to because they're on .gg. And then they start almost this sort of rote process of, okay, everybody, if you have this, use that counter. I think that there's enough variation with this that people can keep sort of moving the target, make it harder, and say people know exactly how to take out this version of Kelleran Beck squad or this version of the Resistance squad. I bet that there are variations of it that are like substantial, like make a difference on how it performs that aren't in that history yet. So I'm excited to see that. Like I'm hoping that keeps the West wild for one more week, kind of thing. You know, so that's where I am. But it's a lot of fun right now.
Yeah. No, I respect that. That's.
Can I add one thing?
No, please.
All right, I just want to call it out. And while Sasha said it, and I've also brought it up for your Gungans, and Tass and I talked about this, and I'm not going to put everything out there. It is not just set it and forget it, and it wins. I believe you have to have a very specific set of circumstances for the Gungans to do the work. I'm not going to call it out, but for anybody who gets to listen, don't just think it is you get to take them in and they're going to win. They have things in their kit that kill steps, yes, but if you're not paying attention to everything, I think you will not win. So I'm just giving the safety net.
That's the real question, is for the very few people that have actually all three characters and have them, you know, quote unquote, properly set up. Is any Separatist team safe on defense? And does that matter when there are legitimately two of them that are meta defenses with this Kron set?
It's like I said, and I told Tass when I played it, I didn't get to record it, but we got to watch it, and I think it's there. I'll give one. If you're taking against Trench, and most teams are going to do Trench and Dooku as the setup, Dooku's first move is going to be stealth. The first person to actually attack is going to be Trench. So if your character who you want to stun, with the right Kron, so again, this is key stuff to look at when we test it. You have potency on a datacron. You can add the potency to the point because of the checks that are going to be there to make sure everything's going to land, everything's going to do what it's supposed to do. Everything else is going to land as long as your character is going in front. So it'll be like Tarples, or it'll be the new one who's stunning everybody. As long as you're getting in front of Trench, you're going to lock them down. And then the fight's off. And I just watched Arnold do it. There was no WAD on the team. It was Trench, I think, Dooku, and Django. He got in front, like I talked about, and the team died. And he got a 58 with the two-man Gungan team. So I'm telling you, this is 100% true. And this was what I would call an adequate or okay Trench datacron. Poop. 58'd by some Gungans. So if you think I'm playing where it's like, no, but you have to be in front so that Trench can't do his Trench things. If he can't go, what does it matter? And you've got good banners. Boom, done.
Okay. So totally agree. Like first, like to go back to me saying I was a little worried. I think they're offensively strong. I don't know Gungans at all. I didn't remember their kids. I don't have them yet.
This is the thing, though.
Yes, TJ does. So listeners, listen to TJ on that. It's apparently not pushing an I win button. But what I do want to add here that these things, this is what makes me excited though, is like, okay, so some predator is coming into the ecosystem that will just tear up Separatists on defense. Well, think about it. That's awesome opportunity in my mind because we all have talked about like Trench with some of these datacrons, this Trench Separatists are really tough on D. That's with the AI running them, right? Imagine what you can do if you pull your Trench, and they have like a bunch of like nice regenerative attributes, like they can regain protection and other stuff. Imagine you pull your Trench over to offense and think about what you might be able to do and then substitute out something else that had been perhaps an offensive staple and put them on defense for you. So it does like to have more things moved to offense because we have so many offensive options. But like, I am convinced that there's some really cool stuff Trench can do on offense right now.
So let me ask you this, Sasha. Let me ask you a hypothetical. I had Tass watch this with me. We were looking at a review of a thing. What if Gungans kill gas? I'm not calling it a great gas. But what if Gungans kill gas? Because what it is this
at
shield
least
generator.
In threes.
They're
at
super.
Least in threes for now.
I'm not calling it. I'm just saying it's like people are trying to put down like weak gas, right? Because it's like it's still gas. But what if your Gungans are killing that now? What happens? Where does this punch up? Because that generator is dope, man. I'm telling you, these kits are really good kits, and I know Tass is happy because he's a Boss fan, right? Well, Boss is actually dope. The Gungan team is actually really good, and the three characters that are coming out are actually really good as a threes team, which is nuts to see. Where like you know how we had to wait for for the Bad Batch to come out, we needed Bad Batch Echo, right? We needed to see the full picture.
Yeah.
They're already strong. Arnold, I love him for it, man, because he does all these crazy things to see what it's doing, and it's like it gives you great ideas. Watching it starting to play with gas, that's pretty relevant we're a world right now where cheap gas is going down with like just an Echo and an Arc to say, oh, I'm going to hold it down. Well, it's like, well, what if my gun guns are beating the hell out of that? And I'm going to get a 57 because you didn't get to my generator fast enough.
Yeah.
All right.
How about you, Tess?
Was it to me? Okay. Did we wrap everything up from you for your thought?
Yeah, you're good, buddy. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I mean, as far as my lessons learned goes, so Reva on defense has to be part of a gambit. It means that I won't be doing it always, especially when I rotate, I think, between 3 different solutions for Saw. Because you expect to see Saw, they know it, I know it, and I can play around that. That's why it's so upsetting the couple of times I've had it pulled on me where they yoinked DTMG and Saw off defense, and I'm hungering for them, I'm looking for them, and then I open up that back wall and it's like, they're not there. Crap, what do I do now? So, I guess what I'm saying is, I have to be careful with Reva, because that's one of the few linchpins I can put in defense. Treya on defense I did once this week. Treya Nihilus Talon, that's one I haven't run in a while because I had BSF Savage parallel with it. It drew like, I want to say a 55, so a couple banners, something like that, in this meta where a lot of folks, especially folks like the guys that we're fighting on a routine basis, know their efficiency game very well. So if you can't always do a trap, just default back to leading into your crons and thinking about what strips banners. Try and go for it, because what you can't be doing is being sloppy on offense. So, you know, I took the punch early, learning about things like Treya versus Kel doesn't work on the punch up. Bounty Hunters versus, Tuskens without them having the Tusken crown. So even with doubt, and even running a Bounty Hunter crown that's not really super depending on bonus turn meter or healing or a lot of stuff like that, yeah, it still wasn't working. So still got to be conservative, because people are going to tighten up those 1 or 2 teams that they dropped on you this week. It won't be happening a lot. As far as Dagger's takeaways, Sidious and Bane are absurd, unnecessary, and a lot of fun. Yes. I no notes on that.
Amen.
For sure. Final thoughts, guys. All right, last note for the people. I'll rattle off Daggers here first, then we'll rotate around. You said Tass's hat is stupid, and we need a sub goal for his broke ass to get a new one from Etsy. TJ, don't let Tass skip the final thought. All right, TJ, bear witness. I behaved honorably with Daggers.
Oh, I was waiting, because if you didn't,
BS.
I was gonna bring it up anyway. So
nope,
it's a good second thought.
That's fine.
Get this man a sub goal and get this man another hat.
I faced the music. All right, we've covered Dagger. All right, TJ, your final thought for the people.
Week 2 is a more intense week 1, in my opinion. I think you need to go back if you have time, right? Like Taz has VODs, and he actually does the extra step of doing the highlights. Go watch them. I think people need to really be observant. There's a lot to learn. GG is going to be just like a plethora of just great details and information about things, because we have a Saw, which is a monster team, right? We have Beck, which is a monster team right now. These are just like, I can't underestimate, and I have to account for it now. We have these other ones, BKMs and other things that have tricky setups. It's like they're playing with the field. Study, make changes. Don't just walk in. Like, I walked in with certain things. I had to change so much out because I faced tasks and got my ass whooped because I did not follow points. And I took for granted, which is always happens to everybody, you take for granted what you think is one thing and it's not. I made a lot of adjustments. Like, we're talking I added 40% more offense to my Holdocron because of what Tass did. He did 30. Fuck him. I get 40 because it was so good of a thought that it had to be the piece where it's like, what really killed me? That offense hit on his already well-modded characters got to be a piece to take into account. So it's like you're not only modding, you're also doing DC. So it's like, damn you, CG, because it feels these are really good and they're doing a lot. So it's like study everything, see where you can make changes. If you can re-roll stuff, re-roll, remod, just do your homework. This week is going to be, I'm just like, holy hell. What week 1 was this? Week 2 is going to be an even more intense this.
That's fair. Very fair. All right, Sasha, your final thought for the people.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a piggyback or kind of a sibling to what TJ was saying, because I think he's exactly right. There's a lot of great research to be done. There's a lot of good content out there. My suggestion to folks, I know most people don't scout their opponents, but if you were going to, I actually think this is the context for like this, the type of environment where it can be really impactful. There's a lot of uncertainty out there, right? And I think almost all of us that are competitive GAC players, we are grasping for certainties. We are looking for things that we know will work, and we want to be able to check a few of those boxes. So I think for many of us, like if you take a look at our histories from week 1 and you see things that worked multiple times for an opponent, you can probably trust they're going to do the exact same thing against those options if you were to set them. And you can use that in a kind of jujitsu form against them, right? Like if you know that, like you think about a few things you'd love to be able to remove from their counter box, their optionality for the back wall, you can probably devise a front wall that is going to draw all of those things. I think almost more reliably now than in a well-established meta, because there's not a lot of certainty and people will gravitate to what certainty they have. So that would be my little suggestion is if anybody wanted to spend the time, I don't always do it, but sometimes I find it a lot of fun to try and get in the head of an opponent. And this is an environment where it can be really impactful.
Yeah, very fair. For my own part, yeah, if you were trying to win in week 1, but you were still trying to gain some intel, then you took maybe only a couple of risks. And if you had difficulty this week, it was probably sweating over how to make sure you did actually one-shot everything. Because I didn't one-shot a whole board this week. And so the difference of the 1-2 is something everybody's looking at. So think about what you actually dropped on attack or what you struggled with. And now that Conquest is over, this first run of set 14 Conquest is done. So take stock of what you've got. Play to your strengths datacron wise, and when I say that, you want to make sure that you have adequate stuff for offense. But where the fun is and where you can pull banners and very likely, very potentially a hold is using the power of these datacrons. The old matchups, the rote matchups, people know how to play for. So mix it up with what you've gained here from set 14. Just that thought from Sasha on the offense cron on Tuskens. I'm really scratching my head thinking about whether or not I actually have a dark side offense cron that good, but I'm hoping I do, because that's exactly the kind of strength I'm talking to play into in week 2. That's about it. So thank you, Sasha, TJ, as always, making the time for our show. Appreciate the heck out of you guys. Time to close up shop. So if you want to catch me on Twitch, I stream on twitch.tv/Tassinix. The way to find out, when I'm going to stream live is to be on my Discord. Look for the link here on my channel. It's also in the info on this video. All my links are on my videos, so you'll find what you're looking for there. Of course, if you enjoy this podcast, you can catch up on previous episodes, right here on this channel. I also have a datacron set 14 video I made recently here with Aesop Rock, one of the top 1 to 5 players in the game, depending on any given week. But really, just generally not outside of that. Great video, lots of awesome feedback from you guys. Thank you so much for all of that. Really appreciate it. And of course, if you like what I'm doing here and you want to support me, you want to support the stream, check out my my Patreon. Let's see, let me pull that right up. Patreon.com/Tassinix. For every and any upwardly mobile GAC player, there is something to benefit from there. At the $5 tier, you get your foot in the door to Tass House. You get early access to all of my YouTube content, including plotting and scheming. So general release is every Friday during the GAC season, and for patrons you get it Monday or Tuesday morning, depending on our schedule for actually getting it done. But those few extra days early can be the difference between being prepared for a new week of GAC, making a couple extra changes there before lock, something to benefit from. At the $10 tier, you get a bundle that includes access to OmegaBot Patreon. So if you're a fan of seeing me do my preamble at the start of the stream, I do break down a bot report that goes into my opponent's tendencies on defense and offense. It's just a fantastic tool. Can't say enough good about it. At the top tier is the bundle that is both OmegaBot and Hot Utils. So Hot Utils really doesn't need a lot of selling. It's just the premier inventory loadout management tool for the game. Just makes a lot of different background management aspects a snap. Can't say enough good about that one either. All right, let's thank the patrons themselves that make all of this possible. Appreciate the heck out of you guys here at VIP Access. Thank you goes out to White Wolf, Sam Vimes, Jobin4527, Stark Strategy Gamer, Renee Bebe, Deadpool Kyle 28, Johnny B. Ottawa, JJ's Productions Twitch, Sweens14, Darth QP PMG, Rays Malbus, and Brock Thud Steel. At VIP Access Plus, thanks to Trevor Boy Gaming, Striker, and Esh Satnakam. Appreciate you guys enjoying that OmegaBot. VIP Access Premium, thank you to Quig, Ibenek, and Sir Boss, all enjoying the Double Bot Bundle. At the top of the heap, in the secret ranks, the yet unreleased ranks, we recognize the one and only Nomad's Reaper. Absolute top of the heap, has just been pushing the hype trains along for the last, year plus now. Incredible support. Just couldn't thank you enough, man. It's made a huge difference in where the account's been able to go over time. And, love you for it, man. All right, let's move to the special thanks to Yoda Force, one of my earliest supporters. Bought me the mic I'm speaking to you on right now. He has long since quit the game, but we remember him fondly from the other side. To Mrs. T, my wife, thank you for, as we speak, keeping our very industrious, very curious daughter out of my hair while I attempt to record some content for YouTube. Appreciate you so much. To Dagger, TJ, Sasha Isha, my co-hosts here on Plotting and Scheming. We're all busy guys. It is a challenge for us to make the time in our work and family schedules to produce this show, but we somehow get it done regardless. Couldn't do it without you guys. Appreciate the hell out of you. All right, guys, we come back here to the main scene, and I'm tickled. I'm tickled going into this week. I really didn't expect how much I was going to enjoy attacking this week, thinking that it was going to be a continuation of the same really I don't know. It was a more bitter feeling efficiency. This was more fun. I feel like I had more of a degree of freedom as opposed to just a glut of attack, because the new crons opened up new options, but also narrowed a few things too. So the net effect was super fun. Anyways, guys, see you out there. Catch you next week. And until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.